Hello, my dear friends. It's good to see you. I recently attended the very first HP Lovecraft Film Festival to be held in Mobile, Alabama, and it was such an enjoyable event that I just had to tell you about it. Share my experiences and exposure to the short films and feature-length movies that you may never otherwise hear about. And there are a lot of quality films here. This is the fourth of 4 movie review segments that I'm doing on the 2023 HP Lovecraft Film Festival. And I broke it up into 4 because I saw over 30 films in about 2 days, and I didn't want them all to blur together. I wanted to give each of them their own time to shine or sputter out, as the case may be. On the festival's final day, the organizers came out and told us that they had specially curated this final block of short films to encapsulate the weirdest, the silliest, and the grossest short films that they had available. And they certainly achieved that goal, and you're about to find out why. We started the silliest of the entries with a 5-minute wonder, The Stool with Pants and Shoes On. The program describes it by saying, mankind must pay for their sins when in their hubris they create the affront to God that is the stool with pants and shoes on. The short film absolutely delivers on this premise. The movie opens with a scientist showing the product of her mad genius to an unwitting friend, and then the horrors unfold. It's funny, it's ridiculous, and it's a good time. Sadly, in researching this to give you trailers and sites to find more information about it, I found nothing, absolutely nothing to give you. Even when I looked for the director, Marco Falcucci, I found a YouTube page that might be him, but there was no mention of this short film. And that's all too bad, because this is a really fun short film, and I would love to give you something to look at. But with a short runtime, and with a desire for me not to completely spoil everything for you, that's all we got. Now, our silliest entry is followed by what I think is the grossest of entries, and that is The Heritage. A man makes a gargantuan discovery when meeting his biological father for the first time. The short film starts with a man sitting in his car with his lady love, agonizing about what he's going to do when he goes into the house he's parked in front of to meet a father he never knew. Finally gathering the resolve to go in, he first meets his father's domestic, and warning signs of an unhappy home start to show up. From there, this becomes 12 minutes of gross from me. It's funny, but it's also super gross body horror. Dear old dad engages in domestic abuse and is rapey. Not kind of rapey as it gets. While it's stylized because of the weird horror theme, it still feels like it. If you're okay with uncomfortable humor, check this out. The performances were all good, and production values matched the real money the director had to work with, since this was produced for Hulu's bite-sized Halloween series for October 2022. This also means this is available to be seen right now on Hulu, so if you've got that subscription service, you may want to check it out. The Heritage has won a lot of awards, so somebody liked it. While I didn't find a trailer for this short film or dedicated websites and social media pages, the director has a web page and active socials. There's also an interview with him on YouTube if you're interested. All of that is linked in the description below. Next up is Fax Repair and You. This 5-minute short film by Andreas Peterson describes itself with a man's search in a cluttered garage claims an unlikely victim. That's it. That's the whole description. While I found myself asking, what the fuck? My schizo posters and late night Adult Swim bizarro film aficionados will like it. This short film is for you. I enjoyed it and liked the old training video hook into a kind of purgatory. Don't worry, this is too weird for me to spoil if I tried. Asking me to describe the setup or to make sense of this thing misses the point of the film because it's not trying to make sense. There is an introductory clip of Fax Repair on You on the Scum Dance Film Festival TikTok channel if you prefer to be spied on by the Chinese government instead of our own for a change. I also found the director's X and Instagram pages, but didn't see this short film mentioned anywhere on it. Fortunately, our next short film is far more coherent, while being silly and dark. Coming in at 6 minutes, The Last Sacrifice's write-up says, Lenny has been feeding otherworldly beings through the circle of blood for nearly 2 years. Now that he's finally a week away from retirement, he's got to complete his biggest task yet. What could go wrong? Whimsical and creepy, I loved it. This thing was a lot of fun. It built some actual tension and some unease to go with the jokes. While obviously low budget, I didn't find it lacking in any way, and its special effects worked as they needed to. Director Tim Tromnier was also the lead actor, played the demons, and did a fine job. Spoiler, there's demons in it. I didn't find a trailer or dedicated web pages, but the director's Instagram and Facebook pages are active, and he also has a YouTube channel for his production company. He's pumped out a bunch of short films over the years, and I'm going to check those out. I really like this one, so I'm curious to see what else he did. Where I thought The Heritage to be the grossest film of the festival, some of you may disagree with me and instead pick Nosepicker. A tale of the unexpected about an 8-year-old schoolboy with a nasty habit of picking his nose. It was great. It's not what I expected. Quote from Joe Dante, director of Gremlins. IMDb goes a little bit further and describes it as a short tale of the unexpected about an 8-year-old schoolboy with a nasty habit of picking his nose. Bullied by his classmates, unhelped by authority figures, Georgie retreats into his habit with macabre results. Basically, Georgie picks his nose all the time, smearing his boogers everywhere, grossing out everybody around him. Why he does it? The 16-minute short film takes its time to reveal, and along the way, the adults and kids alike around him try to reason with him, browbeat him, and send him to counseling. Anything to get him to stop smearing boogers all over the place. The production values were fine, the pacing could have been a bit faster, and generally the acting was not the best. Our main character, Georgie, was boring to watch, but we were stuck with him. He just gives you this dull stare through the entire movie. Now, if that's all the direction he was given, he absolutely nailed it, but he wasn't very interesting. His parents were dull as well. The bullies added some energy to the film, and a bright spot was a school counselor who was hilarious in that frustratingly detached bureaucratic style. An added bonus was that Georgie's teacher was thick, so she kept me paying attention in class. I could give this the alternate title, Night of the Living Booger, because the payoff does come in the end. It does reward you sitting through and watching the whole thing. Gross and funny, you can see a trailer for it on Vimeo, and you can find the director on IMDb, Instagram, and Facebook to see what he's up to. Another silly entry for your consideration, we have You Have Reached Your Destination. With a Google Maps app leading him in circles, a man suspects his phone is purposely lying to him. At 4 minutes long, that's a good basic description. Just know there is, of course, a twist at the end. For me, it was meh. I felt I saw what it was going for, but the jokes just didn't land for me. It was fine. It was mildly amusing. As short as it was worth a quick watch. There is a trailer on YouTube, but again, we were left with just the director's socials and website to work with. Links below. Director Ryan Coldry has made lots of short films, and I intend to check them out on his YouTube page because I felt he had promise. Our penultimate short film hit me full force. Don't bother the neighbors. The program says this: Jay gets more than he bargained for when he goes upstairs to tell off his noisy neighbors. The YouTube trailer description adds, Don't Bother the Neighbors is a love letter to Lovecraftian horror and the movies of John Carpenter, Stuart Gordon, and Jackie Chan. That description tells me this movie was in fact directed squarely at me because I love all those things. And boy, did I feel like it. 7 minutes long, this short film has kung fu cultists, laughable social media influencer grifting, a monstrous dark god, completely believable special effects, and the satisfaction of exacting violent justice on obnoxious neighbors. This is silly fun, and if you like short film and modern masterpiece Kung Fury, this is for you. If you haven't seen Kung Fury, you're missing out, and I've linked that in the description along with the trailer for this short film. Made or marketed by production group Girl Soup, their website has more details, and director Jeff Gorsisa has a ton of videos on YouTube that appear to have a wide range of topics, so he is another I'm going to look further into. He has a website and a bunch of socials, so we'll probably see more from him in the future. And for our last short film of the festival, and chronologically the very last one to be injected into my eyeballs before I made the hour-long drive home from Mobile, we have The Third. 7 minutes long, the program describes The Third with: During Pride weekend, a gay couple invites another man over for a little fun. This is a Portland-based film festival. Of course, they would throw away more dicks than I ever wanted to see in right at the end. If you can handle a bunch of naked dudes in full frontal in your cinema, this is funny and definitely worth your watch. While the clothes are still on, creator Tim O'Leary succeeds at building tension, stoking relationship discomfort and suspicion in the couple. And the actors do a great job of putting that tension on screen. The sense of tension and release in this short film was very satisfying. The performances were genuine, and the surprise twist of the story was perfect for an HP Lovecraft Film Festival, and it left me laughing. O'Leary did a great job of taking us on a wild ride in such a short amount of time. He doesn't waste a frame. Half seriously, this is also how I figure gay orgies go. In a rarity, the whole thing is available to watch for free on Vimeo. Link in the description, and I highly recommend that you do it if you can handle a lot of swinging dicks. Should you only want a trailer, there is one on YouTube, and the best source of information on this and his other projects are the director's pages, which we've linked. Since I needed a palate cleanser after that many dicks in my face, I didn't want to leave you, my dear friends, on that note, just like I didn't want to leave the festival on that note. And I'm going to end this film festival review series with a dynamite entry, probably my favorite of the entire festival, and that is the feature film Suitable Flesh. Successful psychiatrist Elizabeth Derby, Heather Graham, has brutally murdered her young patient Asa Waite, Judah Lewis. Locked up in a psych ward, she recounts to her friend Dr. Daniela Upton, Barbara Crampton, an insane, obsessive tale of erotic attraction, out-of-body experiences, ancient curses, grisly deaths, and unspeakable evil. The things Elizabeth has felt, seen, and done have destroyed her marriage, ruined her reputation, left bodies in her wake, and led her to a kill-or-be-killed desperation. If Daniela doesn't believe her now, more deaths will follow, and Elizabeth will be forever lost. But who would believe such a mind-bending story? And worse, if it is all true, who will be left to tell it? Your ears might have perked up when you heard at least one of those names, because the fact that one of those names was attached to this project is the reason it got made. During the live Q&A session, the film's writer, Dennis Paoli, shared with us that he had been trying to get this adaptation of Lovecraft's story, The Thing on the Doorstep, made for decades. Time and again, a producer would buy in, but the money wouldn't show up because the script was criticized as being too sexual, and things would fall apart. After the unfortunate passing of legendary horror film director Stuart Gordon, one of his starlets, and now producer in her own right, Barbara Crampton, reached out to Dennis for a project they could do together to honor Stuart's legacy. He pulled out this script. She liked what she saw, and she got to work on making it happen. Turns out she's friends with Hollywood A-lister Heather Graham, who also liked what she saw and signed on. With a bona fide big deal like Graham on board, the money showed up and the film finally got made. An acolyte of Stuart Gordon, TV and movie director Joe Lynch grabbed the chance to helm the project, and I don't think there could be a better director for this script. With a runtime of 90 minutes, and thank God for reasonable runtime, Hollywood, you used to understand how not every movie had to be at least 2 or more hours long. You used to know that. Remember that lesson. The pacing is perfect, with just enough scenes to establish the setting and the sense of normalcy, enabling the wild personality swings and erratic behavior to really contrast with these characters' normal lives. I wouldn't cut a thing from this movie. We have an absolutely great cast to tell this story, and they deliver some electrifying performances. Almost every one of the actors gets an opportunity to flex and range in the emotions, intensity, and personalities of their roles. And boy, do they excel at it. Starting at the top, Heather Graham is a mighty fine actress. Always has been, and I've never seen a weak performance out of her. Plus, she's always been top tier hot. Young Heather, more mature Heather, doesn't matter. She's still got it for me. And she remains not in the slightest bit shy in front of the camera. And she devours the screen every time she is on it. While Dennis Paoli seemed caught off guard by my sole comment in the live Q&A that we did, I stood up and said, while I expressed my sympathy that it took so long and after so many failures for them to get this movie made, the fact that it was made now, in the present day, means that we got the Heather Graham version of this movie. And that means lots and lots of naked Heather Graham. Many scenes full of glorious Graham skin, and it's hot. So while I feel for you, Dennis, I'm glad that this movie was made now. Her aggressive seductions can be directly threatening, and the combination of desire and danger makes for some heady stuff. So for this Heather Graham version of the film, I will always be grateful. But wait, if you like attractive blondes, there's more. Having previously retired from acting, producer Barbara Crampton decided to get back in the padded cell and both support and spar with her character's best friend. The chemistry between the two on and off screen friends is palpable, enough to cut with a knife, and it is so much fun watching the two go after each other. Sadly, she kept her clothes on, so F's in the chat, boys. Now do not let me skip the man of the hour, 22-year-old actor Judah Lewis. This guy, let me tell you about this guy. He delivered a shock performance. Here's this young guy I don't recognize from anything, and he's been in a few movies before, so I made no assumptions about his ability. But then he just walks in the first scene he's got, it's with Heather Graham, and then he is bona fide playing tug-of-war with her for who's the most interesting actor on screen. This guy oozed character. Gives that devilish bad boy look that I think might tempt even my own mom. And this lucky son of a bitch got to do all kinds of nasty things with Heather Graham on screen. So this guy got paid to do all those things with one of the hottest chicks ever made. Good for him. This guy needs to be in more movies. He was absolutely fantastic, and I'm straight up jealous. For real, no cap, straight bussin'. Besides a tense thrill ride of a movie, we also get one of the most amazing murder scenes ever put to film, so I completely, wholeheartedly tell you to go see Suitable Flesh. Available to rent and buy on Amazon Prime, YouTube, and other streaming sources, it's totally worth it. I put links to a few of those into the description, and there's also an interview with the screenwriter if you're interested in that. He was fun to listen to, so I would recommend it. Of all the films I've reviewed from this film festival, this is the easiest one to find info about online, no doubt, since it has such great talent attached to it and an actual budget. Maybe now you see why I decided to end this review series with such a dynamite entry. Tits. Heather Graham's tits in an awesome movie. I regret nothing. To quickly touch back on a point that Dennis Paoli brought up in the Q&A session about how the pervasive sexuality in this movie actually got in the way of it being made. Some of the review comments I've seen about this from previous viewers shows that some of them didn't like how sexual the content was. They wanted more focus on just the horror elements. They didn't want the sex in it. They wanted something different than what this movie had to offer. While people are absolutely free to like what they like, and Lord knows my wife condemns so much of what I do like because she has poor taste, to them I say two things. One, there are plenty of other cosmic horror movies out there that don't have this much sex in it, and so you can go watch those. If you don't like sex in your horror movies, then you can skip this one. But two, in marketing specifically and communications in general, fear and sex are two of the most powerful tools we can use to entice an audience's attention. They get paired together all the time and it works. That's why people do it. You ever seen Game of Thrones? It hooked people into watching with rampant amounts of sex and violence. You a fan of Lovecraft's story The Shadow over Innsmouth or any movie based on it? Sex is a mandatory part of that story because you don't get human-fish hybrids without it. Did you find yourself suddenly a pisky sexual after watching Cody Goodfellow's arousing Baby Got Bass I told you about at the beginning of this series? If he got you fish curious, it may already be too late. Well, I'm not going flipper diving anytime soon. Suitable Flesh is combining of incurable ancient evil with humanity's primal sexual desires really worked, so it will be joining my film library very soon. And that wraps up my reviews for the 2023 HP Lovecraft Film Festival held in Mobile, Alabama. I was stoked when organizers Brian and Gwen told us in the audience that a second annual Mobile Festival was definitely in the works. The fact that they took a chance on a relatively small city to put a weird film festival on in the South tells me that they really are trying to get this material out to a broader audience, or at least to better serve those who are already interested but just don't have access to film festivals like this one. And I really appreciate that. If you don't live in a big city, you can no doubt relate to what I'm going to say, but if you don't live in California or Seattle or Chicago, New York, Atlanta, Miami, there's a lot of concerts and shows and events you just don't get. And unless you're willing to travel all that distance to get to them, it's just not going to be something you get to do. So for my part, I so appreciate that they brought this here that I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that it becomes worth their while to keep doing it. So this southern city can have a new long-standing cultural tradition with its own HP Lovecraft Film Festival and become an outpost for things weird and cosmic horror in the South. If any of the short films we looked at have you saying, "But Stephen, my dear friend, I want to see this thing, so how can I do that?" Well, I got some advice for you. Since these short films that we covered are on the film festival circuit, or they usually can't go into commercial release, whether for free or for pay, and still be considered for inclusion in these film festivals, or at least consideration for the film festival awards. While the third is available to watch right now, there are two options you can pursue to see the other short films we covered. First, while the HP Lovecraft Film Festival streaming event has come and gone, you can check back with the sources I provided to see if they intend to release their short films at a future date. Second, each year's HP Lovecraft Film Festival short film collection eventually winds up on a DVD or Blu-ray for that year's festival. Those are usually priced $20 to $25 each, and they are so worth buying that I have the whole collection. I have no financial interest whatsoever in either option. I just want more people to know about and have the opportunity to see these films for themselves, because you can get a lot of value out of that, and because I enjoyed my time with these short films and feature-length films, and I hope you do as well. So in closing, my dear friends, I thank you again for your time and that you chose to spend it with me. And as we part for now, I wish you nothing but the best.